This regular guy from Denmark managed to make over $1 million a year just by selling stock photos online. You might be thinking, that sounds impossible. But the truth is, Yuri Arcurs did exactly that. He wasn't some big-name celebrity photographer. In fact, he didn't even start out wanting to be a photographer. But over the years, he learned how to crack the code of the stock photo world and turn his hobby to a highly successful business. Today, I'm going to tell you the full story of how Yuri Arcurs went from a student to becoming one of the biggest names in stock photography, and how his journey holds some key lessons for anyone looking to make money online. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, have you ever thought about selling photos or digital products online? Alright, let's get started. Yuri Arcurs didn't set out to be a millionaire photographer. In fact, photography wasn't even his main focus. He grew up in Denmark and was studying psychology at Aarhus University. Like most college students, he had hobbies on the side, one of which was photography. Yuri wasn't the kid who always had a camera in his hand growing up. He wasn't obsessed with becoming a photographer. In fact, it was just something he enjoyed doing to unwind from his studies. But everything started to shift when Yuri realized that his hobby could actually make him money. Back in the early 2000s, stock photography was picking up as Web 2.0. Social media, mobile cameras, and smartphones started to evolve. The internet was growing fast and businesses needed images for websites, brochures, and advertisements. At the time, the stock photography world wasn't super competitive, but there was a problem. Most of the photos available were either low quality or just too boring. You know the type, awkward, staged photos of people in bland business meetings or overly cheesy family scenes. Yuri noticed this gap. Businesses needed better quality, more relatable images, and that's when he started to think differently about photography. He realized that if he could create photos that felt more professional and authentic, he could carve out a place for himself in this growing industry. In the beginning, Yuri wasn't making much money at all. He was still in school, so he didn't have a lot of time or resources to invest. But the early sales he made on sites like iStockphoto showed him that there was potential. He was earning small commissions every time one of his photos sold. And while the amounts were modest, he knew he was onto something. This is where Yuri's story takes a unique turn. He started to treat his photography like a business. Most people take photos based on what they find interesting. But Yuri flipped the script. Instead of taking pictures he liked, he began to focus on what buyers were looking for. He paid close attention to which types of photos sold the best. He noticed that certain categories like business settings, health, and lifestyle images were in high demand. So he started shooting specifically for those markets. If a company needed photos of professionals working together, Yuri would go out and create those scenes. But here's where things really get interesting. Yuri didn't just stop at taking better photos. He began to build a system. He realized that in order to make real money, he couldn't do it all on his own. So he started working with models, makeup artists, stylists, and lighting experts, and he continues to do so today. His photo shoots became much more professional, and the quality of his images shot through the roof. This was one of the biggest reasons for his success. He wasn't just uploading random snapshots. He was creating polished, commercial-quality images that businesses were willing to pay for. By 2005, Yuri was all in. He graduated from university, but decided to focus on photography full-time instead of pursuing a career in psychology. He didn't just see stock photography as a side hustle anymore. He treated it like a serious business. He built up his portfolio, constantly experimenting and improving his work. And it paid off. Within a few years, Yuri was the top-selling stock photographer in the world. His images were everywhere. Advertisements, brochures, websites, you name it. And the numbers were insane. At one point, it was reported that one of Yuri's photos sold every 8 seconds. Imagine that. Every time you blink, Yuri was making money. But Yuri's success wasn't just luck. It came from his sharp business sense. He understood the importance of scaling. He didn't just rely on his own skills, he built a team. Over time, Yuri's operation grew to include a full production company with a staff of more than 100 people. They handled everything from the photography itself to post-production and distribution. This is another huge lesson from Yuri's story. He didn't just think of himself as a freelancer, he thought like an entrepreneur. Another key part of Yuri's strategy was diversification. He didn't just upload his images to one platform and call it a day. He spread his work across multiple stock photography sites like Shutterstock and Getty Images, as well as iStock. By doing this, he was able to reach a much larger audience and reduce his risk. If one platform slowed down, he had others that were still performing well, and that's something anyone looking to make money online should remember. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Now let's talk numbers, because this is where Yuri's story really shows the potential of the online business world. At the peak of his career, Yuri was making over $1 million a year from his stock photo sales. Let that sink in. He was earning 7 figures by selling images online. And while that sounds incredible, it wasn't just a fluke. It was the result of years of hard work, smart strategy, and constantly staying ahead of the competition. Of course, like any successful entrepreneur, Yuri didn't stop there. As the stock photo market became more crowded, he looked for ways to innovate. He started exploring video content and expanding his production capabilities. He even started a site called People Images, which allowed him to sell his photos directly without the middleman, which gave him more control over his pricing and branding. But I think one of the most interesting parts of Yuri's journey is how he stayed ahead of the curve in a constantly changing industry. He recognized early on that mobile photography was going to change the stock photo market, and he started experimenting with ways to adapt. Even as new technologies and platforms came out, Yuri continued to evolve, and that's one of the biggest takeaways from his story. If you want to succeed online, you have to be willing to adapt. The internet changes fast, and what works today might not work tomorrow. But if you stay ahead of the trends and continue learning, you can keep growing. So what can we learn from Yuri Arcurs' journey? First and foremost, think like a buyer. Yuri didn't just take pictures he thought were cool. He created content that businesses actually needed. Second, treat your work like a business. If you want to make serious money, you have to take it seriously. This isn't just a hobby, it's a full-time job, and you need to invest time, effort, and money into making it work. Third, scale when you can. Yuri didn't try to do everything on his own. He built a team, hired professionals, and reinvested his earnings to grow his business. Finally, stay adaptable. The online world is constantly changing, and if you're not willing to change with it, you'll get left behind. If Yuri can turn a simple hobby into a multi-million-dollar empire, then what's stopping you? What's one creative skill you've been thinking about turning into an online business? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video inspiring or interesting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this.